just nearly dropped my phone into coffee. Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews and another book review! Yay! I am filming this on the same day as some other book reviews. I don't know when they will go up, so enjoy my face looking exactly the same as in some other videos. Today I'm reviewing the space opera I never knew I needed, Unconquerable Sun by Kate Elliott. I don't think this will be in focus for most of the video, so I will just give you a moment to enjoy the cover and to know what I'm talking about. Ooh, there we go. I wanted to sit and get into all the things that I liked about this book, all the things I think you might want to keep in mind if you're planning on reading this, and basically give you all of the information and all of my opinions on this book. So I'm helping you know whether you want to read this or not, and the deal is, if I do help you, you have to subscribe. Like that, it's the law, I don't know what to tell you. Disclaimers, I was sent this copy of the book, this is a finished hardback copy, I was sent it for free by the publisher. I also had a digital review copy, which is what I read before I picked this up. That doesn't affect my opinion at all. I'm still going to talk about this book the way I want to. Nobody's paying me to talk about books, as ever. If you would like to pay me to talk about books, I'm so available. Other disclaimer, I'm a white lady reviewing a book that features non-white characters, so obviously I can't comment on the representation of those characters from any position of authority or wisdom or nuance. As ever, I urge you to go and seek out Own Voices reviews. I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as humanly possible. If you would like to go in completely blind, like no more than the basic blurb, then I urge you to click away from this video. But if you want a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, should I read this or not, go read this, it's good fun. For the rest of you who are still here, I will keep things as spoiler-free as I can. Unconquerable Sun is coming out from Head of Zeus on October 1st in the UK. Sidebar, I have no idea when this video is actually going out, so it may already be out. It will be linked in the description. It is already out in the US, so if you are an ebook reader, then I think you'll probably be able to get it early, assuming this video is going out before pub date. What is time? While I don't normally comment on like the physical nature of a book because I don't think it's hugely important, I will say that I'm really in love with this cover. I think it's really, really nice. So if you are the kind of person who wanted to buy a hardback, I'd nudge you towards that. It's a nice thing to have. Who is Kate Elliott? Because I didn't really know before I started writing the script for this video. She's an American author who writes YA, fantasy, steampunk, mostly with a romantic leaning, and she's written oodles of stuff, none of which I have read. So if, like me, you're going in with virtually no expectations, beware, because you might then find yourself suddenly needing to pick up the backlist of an author who has written just so much stuff. Like, that's the benefit of reading debut authors, is you don't need to worry about their backlist. To quote her bio on her website, her particular focus is immersive world building and centering women in epic stories of adventure and transformative cultural change. So when I tell you this is gender-swapped Alexander the Great, I don't think that should come as a huge surprise. I feel like I need to add in another thing. There are a lot of words in this book that I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce. Please just take my pronunciations with a pinch of salt and westernness. I apologise when I get them wrong, I'm sorry. Princess Sun is the heir to the Republic of Chaunia, I'm not sure, which is part of a big universe where everything is connected by beacons. The Republic is at war with another huge force, and on top of that, all the ambassadors and nobles are scheming and trying to get Sun basically out of power, or out of her line to power. We follow Sun and some other point of view characters as they try to navigate this political situation while also dealing with the fact that they're at war, they're trying to survive and to create a better republic along the way. Pretty obvious I want to talk about the female characters in this book. I think there are some top-notch female characters in this book. What I particularly enjoyed was that there are a lot of different female characters in this group, but it doesn't become archetypal, which I think was one of my problems with Seven Devils, which was a recent similar kind of release feminist sci-fi. In this case, I think there's a lot more overlap between the characters, which I really appreciated, and this idea that it isn't one woman with one skill. It's a lot of different women with a lot of different skills, some of which overlap. Shock horror, it would seem it is possible to write a group of women with overlapping skills and interests. There are men in this book as well. There are some really great male characters. It's not completely, space crew of ladies. Not that there's a problem with that, but that's not what this book is. But I just thought it was great, and I wanted to highlight a book where women do things and do them well. Narrative structure. I really enjoyed how this book played out. I'm not sure if it was because I was reading a digital copy. I read it on my Kindle, which is somewhere over there. I really didn't feel like this book had a traditional kind of beginning, middle, end structure. It feels much more like a journey you go on with these characters. In some cases, that could have meant that the book got really kind of disjointed and boring, but in this case, I think it really helps with the flow of the story, and also helps because it's a first book. It's having to set up quite a lot of setting and internal power balances and so forth. I also think that the way it moves between point of view characters works really well. There's nothing particularly unique about it, but it didn't feel, I could be wrong, but it didn't feel like it did this person and this person and this person and this person. It felt much more like it moved when it needed to, which again helped with that kind of epic storytelling sense, which again ties into the kind of ancient history side of things. And it just helps keep the story flowing in a book that, while it isn't too long, I don't actually know how many pages the hardback is, just over 500 pages. It isn't too long, but it did feel a bit long, so keeping things flowing is important. This book is queer, LGBT+. I don't think I'll ever get fed up with reading a book where there are queer people on the page. If I ever get jaded and I'm like, oh no, another book, I've probably been abducted by aliens. While those relationships aren't high up in the priorities for this story, they are there, they are represented, and they aren't brushed under carpets. It's not like in the background characters, it's just a vague mention of like an ambassador and her wife or anything. These are main characters who be queer. I'll be interested to see what weight is given to those relationships in later books in the series, because there is a, I think, straight relationship happening within this book that has a lot of focus, and I'd be interested to explore, maybe balance that weight a little bit more. Things that might need mentioning a little bit. I really need to come up with a way of defining that. I really do. I'll get there. I think one of the things I was a little bit iffy on this book early on is I wasn't sure what I was meant to pay attention to. Was I needing to focus in on how beacons work? Was I needing to focus in on this pop culture element? There is a lot of detail and a lot to pick up very quickly. Basically, I think I should have focused more on the pop culture stuff and less on some of the other stuff that I did focus on because it wasn't as important. I don't think that's a problem if you are a rereader, as I think I am. I think I would count as a person who tends to reread, but just something to keep in mind if you haven't yet read this. Pretty much everything is in some way important. Don't write something off as a background bit of information. It's probably going to come up later. This next thing is more of a to note. It's more of a personal preference thing for you as a reader. This book isn't super sciencey, or at least it didn't feel it to me. So there's this beacon system, but you don't really need to know how it works. It's not completely integral to the plot that you understand the science behind it. This is much more about the plot and the characters, because they exist in a world where these things are taken as read, so you as a reader can take them as read as well. But I know that's something that some people use to determine whether they read a science fiction book, so that's some information for you. I just whacked myself in the chin. As you'll know if you've watched one of my reviews before, or one of my recent reviews where I've started doing this, I like to include comparisons and things that you might want to pick up if you read this and enjoyed it, or if you just want something similar. First, I have Becky Chambers' Wayfarer series. These are amazing slice of life, science fiction, more queers in space. It's so good. I cannot recommend these books enough, and basically I think they will come up and in every single sci-fi book I read. I think you should read these because they're basically what I compare every other sci-fi book I read to. Moving into some YA, if you like I've written Air Nightmare in my notes, and I think that I would use State of Sorrow as something that also deals with being next in line for succession, and also ambassadors and people being generally bad and clawing for power, court politics kind of thing. State of Sorrow is a really good example, especially if you want a YA book where someone has to run for government. And finally, bit of a wild card, not sure I would say everyone who read this book would love this, but if you would like more gender-flipped history, may I present to you the Conqueror's Saga by Kirsten White. These are YA alternative history. This is Gender Flip Vlad the Impaler. If you've watched my videos for some time, you'll know I love that series, and I will talk about it any chance I get. Final thoughts, should you pick this up? If sci-fi is your thing, I would say 100% yes, go do it. It's so much fun. Despite having an ancient history degree and feeling like I ought to be able to comment on it, I can't comment on the Alexander the Greatness of it all. Sorry. My one memory of Alexander the Great was that his horse was called Bucephalus, which I'm probably still pronouncing wrong. Never mind. But I did recognise when that came up in the book, so if I picked up that, if you know a lot about Alexander the Great, you'll probably pick up even more things. History nerds, please read this and tell me your thoughts in the comments below. It's a really good character and plot-driven space opera. I say go for it. Go read and be happy. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this review was helpful. Remember that our deal, if it was helpful, you have to subscribe. Comment below with your favourite male character from history that you would like to see gender swapped or gender bent in some way. While you're down there, you can follow me on all of my social media. That's all in the description below. You can also subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. It's gonna be some bloopers now. Oh no. There we go. To quote her bio in her website, on her website. First, I have Becky Chambers' Wayfarer series. Wayfarer series? Yes, yes. Look at me go, I filmed a video.